Okay, let's unpack this. We're diving into something really fascinating today.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing, isn't it? Wisdom from,
Sure.
what, nearly 100 years ago?
Exactly, from a book set in ancient Babylon. But the thing is, what's incredible is how powerfully relevant, how practical it still is for you today. Navigating all the complexities of money in, well, 2024.
It's genuinely striking how these ideas, these sort of core principles, have just survived across millennia. I mean, it originating way back then and still applying in our like hyper-digital financial world.
Totally. And we've got a great way to look at it today. We're using this fantastic article that examines George S. Clason's classic, The Richest Man in Babylon.
hmm And it applies it through the perspective of modern finance experts. It draws heavily on insights from people like Ramit Sethi, who really champions these exact same timeless rules for building real, sustainable wealth.
Absolutely. So our mission for this deep dive is pretty clear. We're going to break down the absolute core principles from that book, what Klassen calls the 7 cures for a lean purse and the 5 laws of gold. Right.
And we're going to explore exactly how these ancient concepts translate to your modern financial life. We'll use real-world examples, practical applications, all drawn from the source material. Think of this as your shortcut to really grasping these foundational wealth-building blocks.
Yeah, not as just abstract theories, but as things you can actually do.
Exactly. Actionable steps.
And the source makes a great point. This isn't about, complicated financial jargon or needing some advanced market strategy. It's really about simple, fundamental truths. How money is earned, how it's saved, how it's invested, and importantly, how it's protected.
Simple truths that have worked for generations.
Across hugely different economies, different cultures, it really shows their universal power.
I love that. It just cuts through all the modern noise, doesn't it? So, okay, let's jump into the source material itself. George S. Clauson's The Richest Man in Babylon, first published way back in the 1920s.
Yeah, and it's presented as these parables, these stories from ancient Babylon, which was arguably the wealthiest city of its time. Right, and it teaches lessons through characters like Arkad, who's the richest man, and his friends who are, well, struggling with empty purses.
And the article makes this really compelling point right at the start. We get bombarded today with all these new financial fads like rapid fire trading, crypto hype, complex derivatives.
Get rich quick schemes everywhere online.
Exactly. All that stuff. But the principles laid out in this book from the 1920s, they've actually built more lasting, sustainable wealth for more people than probably all those modern schemes put together.
That's such a powerful contrast. It's the slow, steady, wise path that actually delivers.
Consistently delivers, yeah.
And the structure Clausen uses, which the article follows, and so will we, it kind of divides the path to wealth into 2 main stages. First up, the 7 cures for a lean purse.
Right. Think of these as the initial steps, the practical guide for someone maybe starting from zero or feeling stuck financially. It's about moving from living paycheck to paycheck towards building that financial cushion and eventually, freedom.
Building the foundation.
Exactly. And then once you start to accumulate some wealth, the focus shifts. That's where the 5 laws of gold come in.
Yeah.
These are the principles for preserving that wealth, making it grow wisely over time, and crucially, protecting it from loss. So it's like building the wealth versus keeping it safe and multiplying it.
Building versus keeping and growing. Got it. Perfect way to frame it. So let's dive into those building blocks then. The 7 cures for a lean purse. These are the actionable steps.
And the source highlights that, interestingly, many people stumble right at the very first one, which sounds so obvious.
Cure number 1, start thy purse to fattening. Such elegant, ancient language. The principle is just consistently save a portion of your income. The book suggests at least 10%.
Yeah, a 10th part of all I earn is mine to keep. Simple. But the reason so many struggle, according to the article, is they approach it backward.
How so?
They try to save whatever little bit might be left over at the end of the month. After all the bills are paid, all the spending's done.
And usually there's nothing left, or very little.
Predictably, yeah. So the core modern application, emphasized in the source, is you have to flip that script completely. You must pay yourself first.
Okay, pay yourself first. We hear that a lot. What does it mean practically?
It means setting aside that 10% or maybe more if you can, maybe less if you need to start smaller. Setting it aside before you do anything else. Before bills, before groceries, before that morning coffee. It comes out first.
And where should that money go first in modern terms?
The absolute first destination, according to the article and pretty much all modern financial advice, is your emergency fund.
Right, the cushion.
Exactly. The article really stresses how critical it is to have 3 6 months of essential living expenses saved up in an easily accessible place like a high-yield savings account,
And why is that so crucial?
because it's your shield. Life throws curveballs, right? A job loss, a medical bill, your car breaks down. Without that emergency fund, those things instantly force you into debt, usually high-interest debt like credit cards.
Which completely sabotages any other progress you're trying to make.
Totally. So the emergency fund isn't just saving, it's defense. It's debt avoidance.
Okay, so pay yourself first into the emergency fund first. How do you make that happen consistently? Because willpower can be tough.
That's where modern tech comes in. Automation. The source strongly recommends automating your finances. Set up an automatic transfer.
Like from your checking account to your savings.
Yep. The day your paycheck hits or the day after. Have that 10% or whatever amount you choose automatically move to your savings or investment account. It just disappears from your main spending account before you even really see it.
So it removes the need to make that decision every single time.
Exactly. It removes the friction, remove the willpower element. It just happens. That's how you build a habit.
What about if you have debt? A lot of people are dealing with student loans, credit cards. Does it still make sense to save?
That's a really common question. And the article actually advises saving simultaneously while paying down debt.
That sounds counterintuitive. You're paying interest on the debt.
It does, but think about it. If you put all your extra money towards debt and have zero savings, what happens the moment an unexpected $500 expense pops up?
You have to put it on a credit card. More debt, possibly at a higher interest rate.
Exactly. So building even a small emergency cushion, maybe $1,000 to start, acts as a buffer. It stops you from taking on more high-interest debt while you're working on the existing debt. It's a dual approach.
Okay, that makes sense. So you don't have to start with the full 10% if that feels overwhelming.
Not at all. The article stresses starting small if you need to. If 10% feels impossible right now, start with 1%. Or even a fixed amount like $50 a month.
Just get the process going.
Get the automation set up, get the habit ingrained. The consistency is more important than the amount initially. And the satisfaction comes from seeing that balance actually grow. You hit your first $1,000 saved, then maybe 1 month's expenses.
Then 3 months.
Right. That's when this ancient principle starts to feel really powerful and tangible in your modern life.
Okay. And the article mentions a modern framework to help structure this, something called the Conscious Spending Plan.
Yes, the CSP. It's a concept often championed by Ramit Sethi, and the article highlights it as a really effective modern application of these principles. And importantly, it clarifies this is not a traditional restrictive budget.
Not tracking every penny spent on coffee versus kale.
Exactly not. It's designed to be a system for freedom, which sounds like a paradox, but it works through structure.
How does it work?
First, it automates the boring but essential stuff. You figure out your fixed costs, rent or mortgage, utilities, insurance, minimum loan payments. You automate those payments so they're handled without you even thinking about them.
Okay, necessities covered.
Then, and this directly applies Cure 1, it automatically builds your wealth. Those automated transfers we just talked about. To your savings, your retirement accounts, your investments, they happen next, systematically, before you get to your discretionary spending.
Paying yourself second, essentially, after essential fixed costs.
You can think of it that way. And because those essentials are covered and your future self is being taken care of through automated savings and investments,
Then the rest is...
the rest is yours for guilt-free spending. The article emphasizes this. The money left over, you can use it however you choose, on the things you actually love without agonizing over every single purchase. As long as you've handled those first two pieces, fixed costs and wealth building.
That sounds much more appealing than traditional budgeting.
It is. And it actually leads to the fourth part of the CSP.
Yeah.
It helps you identify and cut costs ruthlessly on things you don't actually value.
How so?
Because when you see where your money is going after the fixed costs and the saving investing, and you have this pool of discretionary funds, you start making conscious choices. Do I really care about these 5 streaming subscriptions I never watch? Is this expensive gym membership worth it if I prefer running outside? You can then cut those things mercilessly because you know your important goals are covered. And you'd rather spend that money on things that bring you actual joy.
So it's ancient wisdom. Pay yourself first, powered by modern automation and this idea of conscious, intentional spending, security, and enjoyment.
Precisely. It provides clarity.
Okay, that clarity is huge. Let's move to cure number 2. Control thy expenditures. Again, sounds simple, but...
But it's where a lot of people stumble,
Yeah.
right? The ancient principle is just being intentional. knowing where your money goes, distinguishing needs from wants.
And the article points out a common mistake here.
Yeah, thinking it means you have to cut everything, like live like a monk.
Uh,
Doesn't. It's about making conscious decisions.
it also mentions high earners sometimes struggle with this too.
Absolutely. The article notes that you can earn a really high income and still live paycheck to paycheck if you don't get a handle on your spending, if your expenses rise just as fast or faster than your income.
Lifestyle inflation. The modern trap.
It's incredibly insidious, isn't it? You get a raise, you feel like you deserve a nicer car, a bigger apartment, more expensive vacations, and suddenly you're no better off financially, just spending more.
So the modern application is consciously deciding not to let that happen.
Exactly. When your income increases, you make a conscious choice to save and invest a larger portion of that increase, rather than letting it all get absorbed into higher spending. That's how you actually build wealth, not just inflate your lifestyle.
And modern tools can help here too.
Definitely. Budgeting apps, the article mentions YNA. You need a budget, as one example. They give you visibility. They help you track where the money is actually going. Seeing it laid out is often the first step to identifying those unnecessary expenses Arcad warned about thousands of years ago.
And it still boils down to that core discipline, needs versus wants.
It really does. What do you absolutely need for survival, for well-being, and what's a luxury, a convenience, something nice to have, but not essential?
And the article suggests aligning spending with your values.
Yes. Figure out what you truly care about spending money on. Maybe it's travel, maybe it's eating out at great restaurants, maybe it's hobbies. The idea is to splurge guilt-free on those things.
And then be willing to cut back hard on everything else that doesn't matter as much to you.
Exactly. Cut mercilessly elsewhere.
This feels even harder today, though, with like one-click buying, endless subscriptions, targeted ads following you everywhere.
Or absolutely, the ease of spending is unprecedented, which makes this principle even more critical. The article suggests a really simple, practical step. Just take 10 or 15 minutes, look at your bank or credit card statement from last month.
Just review it.
Yeah. You'll almost certainly find charges you completely forgot about, subscriptions you don't use, purchases you didn't really need. That awareness is the starting point for control.
The article uses a real-life example here, doesn't it? Alex and Courtney, to show how tricky this can be.
Yes, and their story is really powerful because they were doing a lot of things right initially.
What was their situation?
Well, at one point, they were living in a lower-cost area, had cheaper rent, both had good jobs, they were completely debt-free, and they were actively saving. Alex even talked about the pride he felt paying off his car and motorcycle, having the most money he'd ever had. They'd built a solid foundation.
Sounds pretty good, but there was still anxiety.
Yeah, Alex mentioned this persistent fear about money. Despite being debt-free, he felt driven to just keep accumulating more, setting higher savings goals like $20 than $50, but it didn't necessarily make him feel more secure.
And then things changed. Life happened.
Exactly. Life changes always impact finances. They had a child, which brought new expenses. They moved, and their rent jumped significantly by like $800, $900 a month.
Wow, that's a big jump.
Huge. And they also had significant wedding costs. The article mentions about $15,000 they paid out of pocket.
So costs went up significantly. What about their assets and debts?
This is where it gets interesting. Despite the rising costs, they had accumulated some significant assets. Alex's vehicles, the car and motorcycle, were valued around $108,000. Courtney had a Lexus worth maybe $30,000. So that's like $138,000 in valuable physical assets.
Okay, quite a bit. But the debt.
The debt had climbed back up to roughly $130,000, mostly student loans, $107K, plus about $22K left on Courtney's car loan.
So assets and debts were almost balancing out, but the cash flow must have been tight with the higher rent and childcare costs.
Exactly. And the article points out this painful paradox. They were apparently arguing over small things, like grocery spending, which is a classic sign of feeling squeezed financially.
Well, sitting on over $100,000 worth of vehicles.
Right. It perfectly illustrates the point of Cure 2. Wealth isn't just about earning or paying off debt or even having assets on paper. It's fundamentally about controlling your expenditures, having a system that aligns your spending with your income and priorities, especially when life changes happen. They needed a system to manage that increased cash flow pressure despite their assets.
That example really drives it home. Okay, cure number 3, make that gold multiply. This feels like the exciting part, moving from saving to growing.
It is. The ancient principle is simple. Put your savings to work so they earn more money for you. Don't just let it sit there.
But people get this wrong today too, right? The article mentions pitfalls.
Oh yeah, a really common modern pitfall is chasing speculative fads, trying to get rich quick through, like day trading or trying to perfectly time the market based on news.
Or piling into the latest hot crypto coin or meme stock.
Exactly. The article aligns with wisdom from experienced investors like Buffett. The most successful investors are often the most, quote, boring ones. They stick to simple, proven long-term strategies.
So the modern application is invest wisely.
Invest wisely, yes. Simply saving money in a basic bank account, especially with inflation being what it is, means your money is actually losing purchasing power over time.
It's going backward.
Right. Investing that saves money into productive assets, primarily stocks and bonds for most people, is how you achieve substantial long-term growth.
And this is where compound interest comes in, the magic.
This is the magic, compound interest. It's called the eighth wonder of the world for a reason. You invest, say, $1,000. It earns 10%, so now you have $1,100. The next year, you earn interest not just on the original $1,000, but on the whole $1,100.
So your earnings start earning money too?
Precisely. It creates this snowball effect,
Mm-hmm.
especially over long periods, decades. That's how significant wealth gets built from consistent, even relatively small contributions. Starting early is a massive advantage because it gives compound interest more time to work. Time is your biggest ally.
Okay, but investing feels risky. How do you manage that?
Diversification. Another ancient principle that's absolutely paramount today. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, or all your gold in one venture, as Farkad might say.
So in modern terms, don't put all your money into just one company's stock.
Or even just one sector like technology, or even just one country's market. You need to spread the risk.
How do most people do that easily?
The simplest and most effective way, recommended by the article, is through low-cost index funds.
Index funds.
Okay. These funds automatically hold tiny pieces of hundreds or even thousands of different companies for stock index funds, or bonds for bond index funds.
Mm-hmm.
So your money is instantly diversified. The risk of any single company doing poorly is dramatically reduced.
And you can diversify across different types of assets too.
Yes. You can hold a mix of stock funds, bond funds, maybe some real estate through things called REITs, real estate investment trusts. They let you invest in big property portfolios without buying buildings yourself. You can also diversify geographically, investing in international funds as well as domestic ones.
So the real secret to making gold multiply isn't some hot tip.
Not at all, according to the article and Timeless Wisdom. The secret is consistency in contributing money, investing in these diversified low-cost funds, automatically reinvesting any dividends or returns you get.
And then just letting time and compound interest do the heavy lifting.
Exactly. Let it work over the long term. The most successful investors, the article implies, are the ones who set up the automation and then mostly leave it alone. They don't check it constantly. They are deliberately boring investors.
Boring sounds good if it works. Okay, cure number 4. Guard thy treasures from loss. This sounds really important, maybe overlooked.
Incredibly important and, yes, often overlooked. It's not enough just to make money and invest it. You have to actively protect what you've accumulated.
Especially today, right? With all the hype, online scams, complicated products.
It's arguably more critical than ever. The article points out that many people get so caught up in the excitement of making money, chasing growth, that they neglect this essential layer of protection.
So what does guarding your treasure look like today?
First, it means understanding and managing risk in your investments. Every investment has risk, but the absolute first rule of building and keeping wealth is avoiding catastrophic losses.
So balancing growth potential with safety.
Right. Balancing the potential growth from stocks with the relative safety and stability of bonds based on how long you plan to invest and how comfortable you are with market ups and downs.
And definitely avoiding those too good to be true schemes.
Absolutely. If someone promises you guaranteed high returns with zero risk, or they have some secret strategy, run the other way. True wealth is built steadily, wisely, not through crazy gambles.
The article also brings in something the Babylonians didn't have here, right? Insurance.
Yes, this is a crucial modern safeguard. The article really emphasizes leveraging insurance to protect your financial well-being against disasters. Homeowners or renters insurance for your stuff and your place. Life insurance to protect your family if something happens to you.
And it highlighted disability insurance, too.
Very strongly, and this is often underestimated. If you get sick or injured and can't work, your income stops. That can be devastating.
Employer plans often aren't enough.
Often not. They might only cover, say, 60% of your base salary, not bonuses or commissions. And that benefit is usually taxable. So your actual take-home could be much lower.
Wow.
The article recommends getting your own private long-term disability insurance policy. Ideally, get it early in your career when you're younger and healthier because the premiums go up significantly with age and health issues. Think of these insurance policies as shields, guarding your accumulated wealth and your future earning potential from being wiped out by the unexpected.
Another modern risk to guard against, our own emotions.
Huge one. Emotional investing. Watching the market plunge or hearing about some new craze everyone's jumping into, it triggers powerful feelings. Fear of missing out, FOMO, or panic selling during a downturn.
Making decisions based on fear or greed.
Exactly. And it's almost always the wrong decision. It leads to buying high and selling low, the exact opposite of what you want to do. The article stresses having a clear, predefined investment plan before market swings happen. That plan helps you stay disciplined and avoid making impulsive, costly mistakes based on emotion.
The source had another real-life example here, right? Martin and Arlie. A cautionary tale.
A very pointed one, yes. It fits perfectly with guarding against loss and avoiding impossible schemes. Arlie made a really significant and unfortunately detrimental financial choice.
What'd she do?
She left a stable job, a good job, earning $56,000 a year, which is respectable, and she left it to pursue a network marketing business, selling essential oils.
Oh dear. MLM. How did that work out financially?
Badly. Her income from this new venture apparently plummeted to just $300 a month. Meanwhile, the couple started racking up debt.
Wow, from $56K a year to $300 a month? That's rough.
And the article includes a snippet where Ramit Sethi is quite blunt about it, calling that kind of network marketing, selling essential oils, one of the bigger scams on earth. He asks how she got into it.
And the answer was?
Through someone she knew. And she was sold on the promise of easy passive income.
The classic MLM pitch.
Exactly. So their story powerfully underscores this principle. Guard your treasures. Avoid impossible schemes. True wealth growth is steady. It requires diligence, wisdom. There are no shortcuts based on unrealistic promises.
So the best protection isn't flashy.
Not usually. The article implies the best protection is actually kind of unexciting. Having the right insurance, staying diversified, managing risk appropriately, and keeping your emotions firmly in check. Solid foundational stuff.
Makes sense. Okay, cure number 5. Make of thy dwelling a profitable investment. Owning property. The ancient dream.
Yes, the ancient principle was about owning property for equity and security. But the modern application is a bit more nuanced.
Because that old saying, buying a house is always a good investment, isn't necessarily true anymore.
Exactly. It's proven costly for a lot of people. The article clarifies that while real estate can be a huge part of building wealth, it's not automatic. It's not a guaranteed golden ticket. You absolutely have to understand the numbers for your specific situation, your specific market.
So it's not just buy a house, it's run the numbers.
Precisely. The modern application is an instruction to objectively assess. Does renting or buying make more financial sense for you right now, considering all the costs and the market conditions where you live?
What factors go into that assessment, beyond just mortgage versus rent?
You have to consider your career path. Are you in a dynamic field, likely to move every few years for better jobs? If so, renting offers crucial flexibility. Selling a house involves significant transaction costs and market timing risk.
But if you're more settled, stable career, maybe in a growing area,
Then building equity through homeownership could be a great long-term strategy. It forces savings via mortgage payments and potentially benefits from appreciation. But you also need to factor in property taxes, insurance, maintenance repairs, potential HOA fees, the total cost of ownership.
And the article suggests thinking beyond just the primary home.
Yeah, interpreting dwelling more broadly. Maybe real estate becomes an additional investment for you. Through those REITs we mentioned earlier, or perhaps buying a separate rental property to generate income and diversify your portfolio.
And there's that modern strategy it highlights, house hacking.
Yes, this fits the spirit of the ancient cure perfectly. House hacking is essentially turning your primary residence into an income-producing asset.
How does it work?
You buy a property, live in part of it, and rent out the rest to help cover, or maybe even fully cover, your housing costs.
Like buying a duplex, living in one side, renting the other?
That's a classic example. Or buying a single-family home and renting out spare bedrooms to roommates. Or using platforms like Airbnb to rent out a basement unit or a guest room short-term.
And the article mentioned an example.
Yeah, a friend who bought a duplex lived in one unit, and the rent from the other side Not only covered his entire mortgage, but actually generated positive cash flow each month. He was essentially living for free and making money.
That's powerful. And remote work makes this easier now.
Hugely. The article points this out. People can now move from super expensive cities to lower-cost areas, often keeping their higher big city salaries. They can afford to buy larger properties than before, maybe with an extra unit or more space.
And then rent out that extra space to create significant passive income. Opportunities that didn't exist for many people before.
Exactly. So the key takeaway from the article on Cure 5 isn't just buy. It's understand the true costs and opportunities in your specific market. Don't just assume,
And how do you do that? How do you research your market effectively today?
well, online data tools, Zillow, Redfin, whatever, showing sale prices, days on market, price cuts,
Hmm.
they're a starting point. But the article argues they only tell part of the story.
You need to go deeper.
Yeah, get on foot, as they put it. Spend real time in the neighborhood you're considering. Walk around, drive around at different times, different days. Observe.
What are you looking for?
Subtle clues about the area's health and future. Are there young families moving in? Are people fixing up their houses, investing in renovations? Are local shops busy? Is there a good mix of people? These things hint at vitality in a way raw data can't.
And pay attention to local government.
Critically important. What are the local government's plans? Zoning changes, new transit lines, school improvements, even things like new bike lanes or parks can signal investment and affect future desirability and property values. The biggest mistake is rushing in without doing this homework.
Thorough due diligence. Got it. Cure number 6. Ensure a future income. Securing the long term.
Right. This ancient idea is about making sure you can provide for yourself and your family over the long haul, especially in retirement, or if circumstances change.
And the article notes that even successful people can neglect this.
Yeah, they might focus heavily on just growing their investment accounts, but forget to build the necessary layers of protection for their future income stream or retirement security.
So for higher earners, say making over $100, it's more than just a basic 401k.
Significantly more. The article specifically mentioned looking into advanced strategies like the backdoor Roth IRA and even the mega backdoor Roth.
Those sound complicated.
They can be, but the payoff can be huge. Basically, they are legal ways, using specific tax code rules, for high earners with the right kind of retirement plans to get much more money, potentially $35,000 or more per year, into tax-advantaged retirement accounts. This can save thousands in taxes over time and dramatically boost your future retirement income. Worth investigating if you're in that income bracket.
And this cure also loops back to insurance, particularly disability insurance.
Strongly reinforces it. We touched on it, but it bears repeating. Your ability to earn an income is your single biggest financial asset before you've built substantial wealth. Protecting that ability with good long-term disability coverage is fundamental to ensuring your future income. It's arguably more important than life insurance for many working people.
And making your money work for you also ensures future income, passive income streams.
Absolutely. It
Right.
connects back to Cure 3. Building passive income that keeps flowing without your active daily labor, is incredibly relevant today for future security. The article gives examples. Dividends from stocks, rental income from real estate, linking back to Cure 5, maybe income from an online business you build.
These often take upfront work or money, though.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
They aren't usually get-rich-quick things, but once established, they provide layers of future income that aren't dependent on your traditional job.
A simpler step mentioned is maximizing employer contributions.
Yes, a critical basic step. If your employer offers a 401k match, say, they match 50% of your contributions up to 6% of your salary, you absolutely must contribute enough to get that full match.
Why?
Because it's free money. It's an instant, guaranteed 100% return on your contribution, up to the match limit. Not taking it is leaving money on the table. And for higher earners, the article suggests asking HR about less common benefits, like if they offer that mega backdoor Roth option, or things like deferred compensation plans. Hidden gems sometimes.
So Cure 6 is about building layers.
Exactly. Multiple layers of financial security. Start with one, maybe the employer match. Add another, get disability insurance. Add another, automate retirement investments. These layers compound to create a really robust foundation for your future.
Okay, final cure. Cure number 7. Increase thy ability to earn. This sounds powerful.
Arguably the most powerful lever you have, and the article emphasizes it's often underestimated.
How so?
The ancient idea is just being proactive, intentional about growing your capacity to earn more income. The article notes many people focus so hard on saving more or cutting expenses.
which are important.
Absolutely crucial. But there's a limit, right? There's only so much you can cut or save from your current income. But your potential to earn more, theoretically, there's no ceiling on that.
So how do you apply this today? Most direct way.
Invest in yourself. Acquire new skills relevant to your job or a job you want. Learn new software. Get better at communication, public speaking, negotiation. Earn certifications, maybe an advanced degree if it makes sense in your field.
Investing time and maybe money in your own human capital.
Exactly. And those investments often yield the highest returns over your lifetime.
What about side hustles?
Definitely part of it. Explore ways to make extra money using your existing skills or even hobbies. Freelancing, consulting, starting a small online business. It provides extra income now, builds skills, and could potentially grow into something bigger.
Networking still matters.
Still essential. Building professional relationships connects you to opportunities, keeps you updated on industry trends, helps you learn from others, and can absolutely open doors to higher paying roles or ventures.
And just keep learning.
Continuous learning is non-negotiable today. The job market evolves so fast, you have to keep updating your skills and knowledge just to stay competitive, let alone increase your earning power. It's an ongoing investment.
The article had a striking example here, too, about income jumps.
Yeah, really impactful. It mentions students who, through really focusing on developing negotiation skills and then strategically changing jobs, were able to boost their annual incomes from around $45,000. They're over $100,000 in just 1 year.
Wow. That shows the leverage you have.
Huge leverage. Your ability to earn is your most powerful financial engine. While saving 10% is foundational, think about the impact of increasing your income by 20%, 50%, or even more over time. It dwarfs the impact of just cutting costs.
So the encouragement is,
Identify just one thing you can do this month to invest in your earning ability. Take an online course, attend an industry webinar, read a book on negotiation, practice a new skill. Just start.
okay, those are the 7 cures. The ancient yet totally modern steps to go from a lean purse to building real wealth. Now we shift gears, right, to the second part of the book and the article's structure.
Exactly, the 5 laws of gold. And the framing here is different, as the article points out. This isn't Arcad teaching his broke friends anymore.
Who is it for?
This is Arcad, the established richest man, giving wisdom to his son no-fluff. No-fluff has already used the cures, he's been successful, he's accumulated some wealth. Now the question is, how do you keep it? How do you grow it wisely? How do you make it last? Maybe even pass it down.
So it's about preserving wealth, growing it, protecting it across generations.
Right. If the cures are like the blueprint for building the financial house, the laws are the principles for maintaining it, expanding it wisely, protecting it from storms, ensuring it lasts.
Okay, law number 1. Gold comes gladly to those who save. This sounds like cure 1 again.
It echoes it, but the emphasis is slightly different for someone already wealthy. It means even when you have significant wealth, the fundamental habit of saving a portion of all income from business, investments, whatever, remains absolutely key to maintaining and growing that wealth.
It's not just about making a lot, it's the discipline of keeping some.
Exactly. Wealth isn't static. It requires ongoing stewardship. And the article highlights how wealthy families often instill this deeply.
How do they do that?
They teach it early, maybe using simple things like the 3 jars for kids allowance, saving, spending, giving, to build a habit from day one.
And for themselves, they rely on willpower.
Rarely. They build robust automated systems, much like the CSP, but often more complex. Money flows automatically from various income sources directly into specific investment accounts, trusts, or other wealth-building vehicles.
So saving and investing becomes the default, not a decision.
Precisely. It removes the temptation to just spend whatever cash is available. It's a non-negotiable system.
And their focus shifts.
Their cultural focus often shifts. Instead of just celebrating luxury spending, they celebrate financial milestones related to building and preserving wealth. Praising a child for opening their first investment account or a young adult for buying their first rental property. Those achievements are valued more highly.
So saving becomes part of the family culture, the DNA, helping wealth last.
Exactly. It builds a foundation that compounds across generations, preventing that shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in 3 generations problem where wealth is made and then lost.
Okay. Law number 2. Gold labors diligently for the wise owner, making money work hard.
Yes. Money shouldn't just sit there idle, especially in cash where it loses value to inflation. It needs to be put to productive work constantly to generate more money.
And wealthy families apply this how?
They focus intensely on diversifying income streams, not just diversifying investments within one asset class. Their money is working multiple jobs at once.
So income from the main business, PLUS dividends, PLUS rent from properties.
PLUS may be royalties, interest from bonds, income from side businesses. Multiple streams feeding the central pool.
And they think long term.
Very long term. Often in decades, or even generations, not just quarter to quarter. They invest in assets that take time to mature, but offer lasting value, like developing commercial real estate or building businesses designed for longevity.
And they reinvest.
Relentlessly. Profits generated from investments or businesses aren't typically just pulled out for spending. A large portion is plowed back into acquiring more productive assets or expanding existing ones. It accelerates that compound growth snowball.
So money becomes this dynamic engine.
A perpetual wealth-generating machine. When guided by this principle, it's constantly being put to work, not hoarded.
Law number 3. Gold clings to the protection of the cautious owner. Keeping wealth is hard. Protect it.
It's often harder, requiring more vigilance than making it initially. You have to actively guard it against risks, bad advice, scams, and your own potential mistakes.
How do wealthy families approach this protection? Rely on one advisor.
Rarely. The article notes they typically build a brain trust, a network of trusted, independent experts.
Like who?
Tax attorneys, sophisticated investment advisors, estate planning specialists, insurance experts, maybe business consultants. Major financial decisions get vetted through this collective expertise. No single person has all the answers or influence.
And they're skeptical.
Healthily skeptical, yes. They cultivate a habit of questioning everything, especially things that seem too good or too easy. If an investment suddenly performs exceptionally well, they dig deeper to understand why. They investigate new opportunities thoroughly, not just jumping on hype. Skepticism is a shield.
And they plan for disaster.
Before it happens. Comprehensive insurance covering assets, potential liabilities, health, life. It's a core strategy, not an afterthought. They maintain significant cash reserves or liquidity, even with millions invested, to handle emergencies or market downturns without being forced to sell assets at the wrong time. And major investments usually have exit strategies planned from the beginning.
It's about avoiding those big mistakes that can wipe you out.
Exactly. That's crucial for making wealth last generations.
Law number 4. Gold slips away from unfamiliar ventures. Stick to what you know.
Very straightforward, but incredibly important. Don't invest your hard-earned capital in things you don't truly deeply understand.
The article references Warren Buffett here.
Yeah, his famous rule. Only invest in businesses you can understand and explain simply. The article points out that great fortunes are often lost when people stray outside their circle of competence, when they stop staying in their lane.
And modern finance offers tons of temptations to break this rule.
Constantly. Complex derivatives, obscure crypto projects, opaque private equity funds, AI-driven investment strategies where you have no idea how the decisions are actually being made.
The boxes.
Exactly. And the article makes such a critical point. Every investment has two risks. There's the risk of the investment itself losing money for understandable market reasons, but there's also the risk that you don't understand the investment.
And investing without understanding is...
Like walking blindfolded. You're almost guaranteed to stumble eventually. Successful long-term wealth holders focus on deepening their knowledge in specific areas where they can develop real expertise, and they invest primarily within those areas. They resist chasing trends they don't grasp.
Makes sense. Finally, law number 5. Gold flees from impossible schemes. Avoid get rich quick.
Yes. Avoid ventures that promise unrealistic returns or overnight riches. Sustainable wealth is built patiently, deliberately, using proven methods.
And every era has these schemes, right?
Every single one. The article mentions things like the Dutch tulip bulb mania centuries ago, right up to some of the speculative excesses we see today in certain digital assets or pyramid-like business models.
History doesn't repeat, but it rhymes.
It certainly does when it comes to promising impossible riches. Sustainable wealth growth, Arcad taught, requires patience, deliberation, no shortcuts.
And this ties back to Martin and Arlie.
Directly. The allure of easy passive income from that network marketing scheme was precisely the kind of impossible scheme this law warns against. It promised high rewards for little real value creation or sustainable business structure, and it led to financial loss.
And modern markets add pressure. Get in now or miss out.
Huge pressure. Social media amplifies it. FOMO is intense. But families who've kept wealth for generations know that rushing into things without careful thought and due diligence is one of the fastest ways to lose money.
So there's a paradox.
A profound one. The harder you try to get rich fast, especially using unproven or overly speculative methods, the more likely you are to end up losing the wealth you already have. Patience, discipline, sticking to sound principles, that's the real path.
These 5 laws really paint a clear picture. They work together, don't they?
Absolutely. It's a system. You consistently save, Law 1, put that savings to work wisely, Law 2, actively protect it from threats and bad decisions, Law 3, stay within your circle of understanding, Law 4, and focus on steady, sustainable growth, not impossible schemes, Law 5.
It's caution, but it's also strategy. The cures build the foundation, the laws preserve and grow it for the long haul.
Tried and true strategies that just keep working.
It's interesting, though, that the article points out the book itself is quite simple, maybe even repetitive, and it lacks specifics on modern tools, like exactly how a backdoor Roth works or optimal asset allocation.
Right, it doesn't get into those weeds. But the article argues, and I think compellingly, that this very simplicity is its greatest strength.
How so?
It cuts through all the noise, all the jargon, the complexity, the constant barrage of new products and strategies in modern finance. It forces you back to the absolute fundamentals.
The bedrock principles.
Exactly. Save some, control spending, invest wisely, protect your capital, make smart housing decisions, secure your future income, increase your earning power. These things worked in Babylon. They work today. They're the signal underneath all the noise.
A powerful reminder when things feel overwhelming.
Absolutely. Sometimes returning to these basics is the most effective strategy.
Now, the article does stress that these principles, while universal, are just the starting point for you. You need to adapt them.
Right. Adapt them to your unique situation. Where are you right now? Are you deep in debt, saving for a house, planning for retirement, trying to build generational wealth? Your focus will shift based on your current reality and your goals.
And this connects to that idea of building your rich life, the remit sethi concept the article mentions.
Exactly. His definition of a rich life isn't just about maximizing the number in your bank account. It's about using these financial principles as tools.
Tools to create what?
To create a life where you have the freedom and the resources to spend extravagantly, guilt-free on the things you truly love and value, while simultaneously having the discipline and the systems in place to cut costs mercilessly on all the things you don't actually care about.
So the principles aren't the goal, they're the means.
They're the means. They build the foundation, the structure, that supports your specific vision of what a successful and fulfilling life looks like. They make your money work for the life you want to live.
It shifts money from being maybe a source of stress or anxiety
Into being a tool for intentionality, for achieving your real goals.
So wrapping this up, the core message we're taking away from this deep dive seems undeniably clear. The path to financial security, to wealth. It isn't some hidden secret. It's not about complex schemes or risky bets.
Not at all. It's built on these simple, ancient, timeless principles. Principles that, when you understand them, and more importantly, apply them consistently and strategically in our modern world, hold just immense power to change your financial life.
From that very first decision to consciously save a small part of your income.
All the way to diligently protecting the wealth you build for the long term and making sure it grows wisely.
Applying these fundamental ideas, proven over literally millennia, that's the real key to building lasting prosperity.
It really is.
Okay, so as we finish this deep dive, here's a final thought for you, the listener, to maybe sit with. Something to apply to your own life. Of all these ancient principles we've discussed, the 7 cures, the 5 laws saving, controlling spending, investing, guarding your wealth, housing decisions, ensuring future income, increasing earning power, which one feels the most challenging for you to actually implement consistently in your modern life right now?
That's a good question to ponder.
And think about this. If one of them feels particularly challenging, could that perhaps be a sign that it's precisely the most important one for you to focus on? The one where taking even a small action starting today might make the biggest difference?